The gunshot echoed through the Seoul warehouse, shattering the silence of the night. Amara's hands trembled as she held the phone, her finger hovering over the record button. Through the crack in the metal container, she could see Jinwoo standing over the body of Park Min-ho, his father's oldest friend, smoke still rising from the pistol in his hand. This was it, the moment that would either vindicate her or end her life. She pressed record. 3 years earlier, Amara Okonkwo had never imagined she would set foot in Korea. Her world was Lagos, vibrant and chaotic, filled with the smell of jollof rice and the sound of her mother's laughter echoing through their family compound. Her father, Chief Emmanuel Okonkwo, had built an empire importing Korean electronics and machinery into West Africa. He was a man of vision, always talking about bridges between continents, about partnerships that transcended borders. Amara was 23 then, fresh from university with a degree in international business, eager to help expand the family enterprise. She remembered the day Jinwoo first arrived at their home. He was tall for a Korean man, with sharp features and eyes that seemed to calculate everything they saw. Her father had met him at a trade conference in Dubai and spoke of him with an enthusiasm that made Amara's mother raise her eyebrows. "Emmanuel, you barely know this man," her mother, Ngozi, had said that evening as they prepared dinner. "And you want to make him a partner." "Ngozi, this is the future," her father had replied, his voice filled with conviction. "Jinwoo has connections throughout Asia. With him, we can bypass the middlemen, get products directly from manufacturers. We can triple our business in 2 years." Amara had watched Jinwoo during that first dinner, the way he complimented her mother's cooking, how he asked thoughtful questions about Nigerian culture, how his smile never quite reached his eyes. There was something rehearsed about his charm, like lines memorized for a play. But her father was entranced, and her mother, despite her initial reservations, began to warm to their guest. Over the next 6 months, Jinwoo became a fixture in their lives. He helped negotiate deals that seemed too good to be true, opened doors to suppliers who had previously been unreachable, and spoke of expansion into new markets. Her father signed papers, transferred funds, and when Jinwoo suggested they formalize their partnership with a joint company registered in Seoul, Chief Okonkwo agreed without hesitation. "Amara," her father had said one evening, calling her into his study, "I want you to go to Korea, learn the business from that side. Jinwoo has offered to host you, show you how operations work there. It will be good for you, expand your understanding." The excitement in his eyes was contagious. Amara had always dreamed of traveling, of seeing the world beyond Lagos. Korea seemed exotic, a place of technological marvels and ancient traditions. She accepted immediately. Her mother was less enthusiastic. "Something about that man," Ngozi said as they packed Amara's suitcase. "I cannot put my finger on it, but something is not right." "Mama, you worry too much," Amara had laughed, folding a favorite dress into her luggage. "Papa trusts him, and Papa is never wrong about people." How naive she had been, how blind. Amara arrived in Seoul in October, when the city was painted in shades of gold and crimson. Jinwoo met her at the airport, his smile polite but distant. He drove her to a small apartment in Gangnam, a neighborhood that gleamed with wealth and modernity. "You will start at the warehouse tomorrow," he said, handing her keys. "Learn how we process orders, manage inventory. After a few weeks, I will introduce you to our suppliers." The apartment was sparse but clean. That first night, Amara stood at the window, looking out at the neon-lit city below, feeling the first stirrings of homesickness. She called her parents, heard her mother's voice thick with emotion, her father's encouragement to be strong and learn everything she could. "We are so proud of you, NWAM," her mother said. "Call us every day." "I will, Mama, I promise." The warehouse work was mundane but educational. Amara spent her days cataloging shipments, learning the logistics of international trade, practicing her basic Korean with the workers who found her accent amusing but endearing. Jinwoo was rarely there, always traveling, always on phone calls that took him away from the office when she approached. After a month, she began to notice inconsistencies, shipments that didn't match manifests, invoices with numbers that seemed inflated. She mentioned these to Jinwoo during one of their rare meetings. "You are learning well," he said, his tone measured. "But these are complex transactions. There are taxes, duties, fees that you do not understand yet. Trust the process." Something in his voice made her skin prickle, but she nodded. She was the student here, after all, the outsider trying to understand a foreign system. It was a Wednesday evening when her world collapsed. She was in her apartment, cooking a Nigerian stew that filled the space with the smell of home, when her phone rang. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer. "Is this Amara Okonkwo?" The voice was formal, speaking English with a Korean accent. "Yes, who is this?" "This is Detective Kim from the Seoul Metropolitan Police. I am sorry to inform you that there has been an incident involving your father, Chief Emmanuel Okonkwo." The wooden spoon fell from her hand, clattering against the kitchen floor. "What kind of incident?" "He was found dead in his hotel room in Dubai 3 hours ago. Your mother as well. I am very sorry for your loss." The world tilted. Amara's legs gave out and she sank to the floor, the phone pressed so hard against her ear it hurt. "What? No, that's impossible. I just spoke to them yesterday. The Dubai police are investigating. They believe it was a robbery gone wrong. Both were shot. I am contacting you because your father had emergency contact information listing you in Seoul. Do you have other family we should notify?" Amara couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her parents, her beautiful, vibrant parents, gone, just like that. She managed to whisper the names of uncles and aunts back in Lagos before the detective said he would be in touch and ended the call. She sat on that kitchen floor for hours, the stew burning on the stove, smoke filling the apartment until the alarm screamed. She didn't move, couldn't move. The world had ended and she was still breathing, and that seemed like the cruelest joke of all. Jinwoo arrived the next morning. She had called him at some point during the night, her voice breaking, barely coherent. He found her still on the floor, eyes red and swollen, phone clutched in her hand. "Amara," he said, his voice soft. "I am so sorry. This is a terrible tragedy." He helped her up, made her tea, sat with her while she cried. For the first time since she'd met him, he seemed genuinely human, his own eyes wet with tears. "Your father was a good man," Jinwoo said. "He trusted me and I will honor that trust. I will help you through this." In her grief, she believed him. The next weeks were a blur. Jinwoo handled everything, the paperwork to repatriate her parents' bodies, the funeral arrangements, the legal matters. Amara was too shattered to do more than exist, moving through each day in a fog of pain. Her family in Lagos wanted her to come home immediately, but Jinwoo convinced her to stay in Seoul for a few more weeks. "There are business matters to resolve," he said. "Your father's investments here, the company assets. You need to be present to sign documents to ensure everything is handled properly. Then you can go home." She trusted him. Why wouldn't she? He had been her father's friend, his partner. He had cried at the funeral, had spoken so movingly about Chief Okonkwo's vision and generosity. She signed the papers he put in front of her, barely reading them, her mind too clouded with grief to focus. It was her uncle, Chitty, who first raised the alarm. He called from Lagos 2 months after the funeral, his voice tight with anger. "Amara, what have you done? The company accounts are frozen. The properties are being sold. We cannot access anything." "What? Uncle, I don't understand." "The papers you signed in Korea. They transferred everything to Jinwoo's company. Everything. Your father's life work, your inheritance gone. What were you thinking?" Cold dread flooded her veins. "No, Uncle, those were just administrative documents. Jinwoo said they were to maintain operations until I could take over." "Amara," her uncle's voice broke, "you gave him everything, and now he is saying your father owed him money, that the partnership agreement included debt provisions. He is taking it all." She confronted Jinwoo that evening. He was in his office, a sleek space overlooking the Han River. When she burst in, he looked up from his computer, his expression shifting from surprise to something else, something cold. "You lied to me," Amara said, her voice shaking. "Those papers I signed. You said they were to protect the business." Jinwoo leaned back in his chair, studying her. I did protect the business. My business. Your father made poor investments, Amara. He was in debt. I am simply collecting what I am owed. That's not true. Papa was successful. He would never. Your father was a fool. Jinwoo's voice was ice. He thought he could play in international markets without understanding the rules. He borrowed from me, used my contacts, and when it came time to repay, there was nothing. So I am taking payment another way. But my parents, they died in Dubai going to meet a supplier you arranged. You sent them there. Something flickered in his eyes. Dubai is dangerous. Robberies happen. It is unfortunate. The implication hung in the air between them, too horrible to voice. Amara felt her knees weaken, but she forced herself to stay standing. You killed them. Jinwoo stood, buttoning his suit jacket with careful precision. You should go back to Nigeria, Amara. There is nothing for you here. Go home, grieve, move on with your life. Forget about the business. Forget about everything. I will go to the police. And tell them what? That you voluntarily signed legal documents transferring assets. That you believe your parents' death was something other than a random crime thousands of miles away from here. You have no proof, no evidence, just grief and paranoia. He moved toward the door, then paused. I am being generous letting you leave. Do not make me regret that generosity. Amara left his office, but she didn't leave Seoul. She moved out of the apartment Jinwoo had provided, found a tiny room in Itaewon, and got a job teaching English at a hagwon. Her savings dwindled quickly, but she couldn't go back to Nigeria. Not like this. Not defeated. Not when the man who had destroyed her family walked free. She began to investigate. It was difficult at first. Her Korean was still basic, the legal system foreign, and she had no connections in the city. But grief had burned away her naivety, leaving something harder in its place. She started small, going back to the warehouse where she had worked, talking to the employees she had befriended. One of them, a young man named Jinwoo, took pity on her. They met at a coffee shop near Hongdae, the area alive with students and artists. Mr. Choi is not a good man, Jinwoo said quietly, using Jinwoo's Korean surname. We all know this, but he is powerful, connected. People who cross him tend to disappear or have accidents. What do you mean, connected? Jinwoo glanced around, making sure no one was listening. He works with the Hway Sungpa. You know this name. Amara shook her head. They are a criminal organization, not like the old gangs, more sophisticated. They move money, control imports, run protection rackets. Mr. Choi uses the legitimate business as a front, but much of what goes through that warehouse is not legal. This explained so much. The discrepancies she had noticed, the inflated invoices, Jinwoo's frequent absences. Does he hurt people? Have people killed? Jinwoo's silence was answer enough. Amara felt rage bloom in her chest, hot and clarifying. I need proof. Documents, recordings, something that can bring him down. That is very dangerous. I don't care. Jinwoo studied her for a long moment. There is a man, Park Min-ho. He used to work for Mr. Choi but left the organization last year. He knows things, has evidence he kept as insurance. If you can find him, maybe he will help you. Finding Park Min-ho took 3 weeks. He was hiding in Busan, living under a false name, working at a fish market by the sea. When Amara finally tracked him down, he was terrified. I want nothing to do with Choi Jinwoo, he said in Korean, which Amara now understood much better after months of immersion. I am lucky to be alive. Please, Amara begged. He killed my parents, stole everything from my family. I need your help. Park's weathered face softened. I heard about your father. Mr. Choi bragged about it. Said he arranged the meeting in Dubai, hired local thugs to make it look like a robbery. He laughed while telling the story. Amara's vision blurred with tears and fury. Help me, please. Even if I give you what I have, it will not be enough. You need him on tape, admitting to crimes. Otherwise, it is just my word against his, and I am a convicted criminal. My testimony means nothing. Then help me get him on tape. Park shook his head. You are a brave girl, foolish but brave. Over the next month, Park Min-ho became her unlikely mentor. He taught her how the organization worked, where the money flowed, who was loyal to Jinwoo, and who was simply too afraid to leave. He showed her documents, carefully preserved ledgers that detailed illegal transactions, shipments of counterfeit goods, money laundering through shell companies. "This is good," Amara said, poring over the papers in Park's tiny apartment. "We can take this to the police." "No," Park was firm. "The police are paid off. Half of them are on Mr. Choi's payroll. You need something so big, so public that they cannot ignore it. You need a confession." "How do I get that?" Park smiled grimly. "You make him angry, scared. People confess when they think they are in control, when they are gloating, or when they are cornered and desperate." The plan they devised was risky. Amara would reach out to Jinwoo, claim she had found evidence and wanted to negotiate. She would wear a wire, meet him somewhere public at first, then try to maneuver him into saying something incriminating. Park would be nearby with backup recordings, ready to intervene if things went wrong. "He might kill you," Park warned. "You understand this." "He already killed my parents. I have nothing left to lose." "That is where you are wrong. You have your life, your future. Do not throw it away for revenge." "This isn't revenge," Amara said quietly. "This is justice." She contacted Jinwoo through an encrypted email, using an account she created at a PC bang in Gangnam. The message was simple. "I have Park Min-ho's files. I know everything. We need to talk." His response came within an hour. "You are playing a dangerous game." "I just want what's mine, my family's business, a settlement. Then I will give you the documents and disappear." There was a long pause before his next message. "Meet me at the Sky Lounge in Myeongdong, Friday at 9 p.m. Come alone." The Sky Lounge was an upscale bar on the 63rd floor of a building overlooking Seoul. It was public, crowded with businessmen and tourists, a place where violence seemed impossible. Amara arrived early, the wire taped to her ribs feeling like it was burning through her skin. Park was at a table across the room, nursing a whiskey, a pistol hidden in his jacket just in case. Jinwoo arrived exactly on time. He looked the same as always, impeccably dressed, his face an unreadable mask. They sat at a table by the window, the city sprawling beneath them in a sea of lights. "You look well," Jinwoo said, ordering a scotch. "I heard you have been living in Itaewon, teaching English, such a waste of your education." "Let's skip the pleasantries," Amara said, proud that her voice didn't shake. "I want 200 million won and full return of my family's property in Nigeria. In exchange, I give you all of Park's documents and disappear." Jinwoo sipped his drink, his eyes never leaving her face. "You think you can threaten me, extort me?" "I think you don't want those documents becoming public. I think you have too much to lose." "What I think," Jinwoo said slowly, "is that you are bluffing. Park Min-ho is a coward. If he had anything truly damaging, he would have used it already. And you, sweet naive Amara, you have nothing." This was the moment. Amara leaned forward, her heart hammering. "I have the manifests from the Dubai shipments, the ones right before my parents died, the ones showing you sent them there to meet with people who didn't exist. I have the money transfers to the men who killed them. I have everything." Jinwoo's expression flickered, just for a second. Anger. Then it was gone, replaced by his usual cold control. "You are lying." "Am I? Because you are looking worried. Maybe for the first time since I have known you, you actually look scared." He stood abruptly. "This conversation is over. Go back to your little room, Amara. Live your small life. Because if you continue this, you will not like what happens." He left without paying for his drink. Amara sat there, shaking, as Park came over. "Did you get it?" she asked. He shook his head. He was careful, admitted nothing. "We need to push harder." Over the next week, Amara escalated her campaign. She sent Jinwoo daily emails, each one revealing more details about what she knew. She contacted some of his business associates, hinting at improprieties. She was playing with fire, she knew, but she had committed to this path. The breaking point came when she sent him a copy of a bank transfer, one that showed money moving from his account to a known facilitator of contract killings in the Middle East. The transfer was dated 2 days before her parents arrived in Dubai. His response was swift. "You have forced my hand. Meet me at the warehouse in Seoul tomorrow night. Bring all the documents. Come alone or people you care about will suffer." It was a trap. Amara knew it was a trap. Park knew it was a trap. And yet it was also their best opportunity. "He is angry now," Park said as they prepared. "Angry men make mistakes. Get him talking. Let him confess while gloating. I will be nearby with police I trust. Real ones from a unit that investigates organized crime. They will raid the warehouse once we have him on tape." Amara spent the day in a fog of fear and determination. She wrote letters to her family, to her friends, explaining everything in case she didn't survive the night. She visited a temple and prayed, though she wasn't sure to whom or for what. And as the sun set over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold, she took a taxi to the warehouse in Seoul. The building was dark, most of the workers gone for the night. Amara's footsteps echoed on the concrete floor as she made her way inside. The wire pressed against her skin, the recorder in her pocket a small weight that felt like her only anchor to reality. Jinwoo was waiting in the main storage area, surrounded by shipping containers stacked like metal towers. He was not alone. 2 large men stood behind him, their expressions blank. "Amara," Jinwoo said, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. "You came." "I came. I have the documents in my car. Give me what I asked for and they're yours." "You really think I am going to pay you? That I am going to let you walk out of here?" "I think you are a businessman. This is a transaction." Jinwoo laughed, the sound cold and cruel. "You know what I think? I think you have become a problem that needs to be eliminated, just like your father, just like your mother." Amara's blood ran cold, but she forced herself to push. "So you admit it, you had them killed." "Of course I had them killed." Jinwoo's voice was matter-of-fact. "Your father was too trusting, too stupid. He believed in partnerships and friendship. He didn't understand that business is war and war requires casualties." "Why? He trusted you. He welcomed you into our home." "And that made him weak. His weakness made him rich and his riches made him a target." Jinwoo stepped closer. "I needed capital to expand my operations. Your father had it. So I befriended him, gained his trust, and when the time was right, I took everything. The Dubai operation was perfect. Hired locals made it look like a random robbery. No one suspected anything." "The police." "The police in Dubai closed the case in 2 weeks. The police here believe I am a legitimate businessman. And you are just a grieving daughter who cannot accept that bad things sometimes happen to good people." It was happening. He was confessing, his arrogance finally overwhelming his caution. Amara felt tears streaming down her face, but she kept pushing. "And me? What about me? Why did you let me live?" "Because at first you were useful. You signed the documents I needed. You made the transfer of assets look legitimate. And then I thought you would go home, disappear into your life in Nigeria. But you didn't. You stayed. You became curious. And now you are a liability." One of the men behind Jinwoo pulled out a pistol. The sight of it made Amara's legs weak, but she stood her ground. "You are going to kill me too. I am going to make you disappear. There are many ways to dispose of a body and soul. In a few weeks, you will be forgotten. Just another foreign worker who decided to go home. You are a monster." "I am a survivor." Jinwoo's eyes glittered in the dim light. "And survival requires making difficult choices. Your father never understood that, but you are starting to learn." A sound echoed from somewhere in the warehouse. Footsteps. Jinwoo's head snapped around, his hand rising to signal his men. "I thought I told you to come alone." "I did," Amara lied, her heart racing. But it wasn't Park. From behind a stack of containers, another figure emerged. Park Min-ho, but he was being pushed forward by a third man, a gun pressed to his back. "Found this rat skulking around outside," the man said in Korean. Jinwoo's face twisted with rage. "Park, I should have known. You could never stay away, could you?" Park's face was pale but defiant. "You are finished, Jinwoo. The police are already on their way." "You think I believe that? You think I am that stupid?" And then everything happened at once. Sirens wailed in the distance. The man holding Park turned, distracted, and Park twisted, fighting for the gun. A shot rang out, deafening in the enclosed space. Park fell, clutching his stomach, blood spreading across his shirt. "No," Amara screamed, lunging forward. Jinwoo grabbed her arm, yanking her back. "You stupid girl, you have ruined everything." The sirens were getting closer. The man who had shot Park was panicking, looking to Jinwoo for instructions. In the chaos, Amara saw her chance. She twisted out of Jinwoo's grip, pulling the small canister of pepper spray Park had given her from her pocket. She sprayed it directly into Jinwoo's face. He screamed, stumbling backward, his hands clawing at his eyes. Amara ran to Park, dropping to her knees beside him. "The wire," he gasped. "Did it record?" "Yes, everything." "Good, good." His eyes were glazing over. "Get out of here, the police will come, let them find him." "I am not leaving you." "Go." But Amara didn't have to go anywhere. The warehouse doors burst open, and police flooded in, their weapons drawn, their voices shouting commands in Korean. Jinwoo was still on the ground, blinded, surrounded within seconds. His men tried to run but were tackled before they reached the exits. An officer approached Amara, helping her to her feet. "Miss Okonkwo, we have been listening to the wire. We have everything we need." The next hours were a blur. Paramedics took Park away, though Amara didn't know if he would survive. She was taken to a police station, where she gave her statement over and over, showed them the documents Park had preserved, explained everything. Detective Kim, the same officer who had called her the night her parents died, sat across from her, his expression grim. "Mr. Choi will be charged with multiple counts of murder, money laundering, and organized crime activities," he said. "Your testimony and the recording will be crucial to the prosecution." "Will it be enough? Will he actually be punished?" "He will spend the rest of his life in prison. I promise you that." Amara wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that justice would be served, that her parents' deaths would be avenged. But she had learned too much about the world, about power and corruption, and how money could buy freedom for monsters. The trial took place 8 months later. Amara returned to Seoul from Lagos, where she had finally gone home to grieve properly with her family. The courtroom was packed with journalists and curious onlookers. Jinwoo sat at the defense table, his face impassive, dressed in an orange jumpsuit that was such a contrast to his usual suits. When Amara took the stand, their eyes met. She saw no remorse there, no regret, just cold calculation even in defeat. She told her story. The jury listened, some of them with tears in their eyes. The recording was played, Jinwoo's voice echoing through the courtroom, confessing to orchestrating her parents' murders. When it finished, there was absolute silence. The verdict came 3 weeks later. Guilty on all counts. Life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. As the judge read the sentence, Amara felt something break open inside her. Not joy, not satisfaction, but a kind of exhausted relief. It was over. Finally, it was over. Park Min-ho survived his gunshot wound and testified against Jinwoo as well. He was given immunity for his cooperation and entered witness protection, disappearing into a new life somewhere Amara would never know. Before he left, he visited her one last time. "Your father would be proud of you," he said. "You are braver than anyone I have ever known." "I just did what I had to do." "No, you did what most people could never do. You sought justice in a foreign land." Against impossible odds, that takes more than bravery, that takes strength of spirit. After the trial, Amara stayed in Seoul for a few more months. She had developed a strange affection for the city, despite everything that had happened. She visited the Han River at sunset, ate tteokbokki from street vendors, practiced her Korean until she could hold full conversations. The city that had been the site of her greatest tragedy had also been the place where she discovered her own strength. She also worked with lawyers to recover as much of her family's assets as possible. The process was slow and complicated, but eventually significant portions were returned. Not everything, but enough. enough to honor her father's legacy, to provide for her family back home, to rebuild. One evening, she stood on the balcony of her hotel room, looking out over the city lights. Her phone buzzed, a message from her uncle in Lagos. "When are you coming home, NWAM? We miss you." Amara smiled, typing her response. "Soon, uncle, very soon." But before she left Korea, there was one more thing she needed to do. She visited the warehouse in Seoul one last time. It had been shut down, the site of a crime scene, yellow tape still fluttering in the wind. She stood outside, remembering that night, the fear and the courage, the moment she had stared down the man who killed her parents and refused to back down. "Mama, Papa," she whispered to the evening air. "I did it. He can never hurt anyone else. You can rest now." The wind carried her words away into the Seoul twilight. Amara returned to Lagos changed. The girl who had left 3 years ago was gone, replaced by a woman who understood the true price of justice, who had seen the darkness in human hearts and still chosen to fight against it. She threw herself into rebuilding her father's business, running it with a shrewdness and caution he had lacked. She also started a foundation to help families of crime victims, particularly those who had been targeted in international schemes. She worked with embassies, with police departments across borders, trying to create the kind of support system she wished had existed when she needed it most. Life moved forward. It always does. But there were nights when she woke up in her childhood bedroom, heart racing, remembering the sound of that gunshot in the warehouse. There were moments when she saw a Korean man on the streets of Lagos and felt her body tense with remembered fear. Trauma, she learned, doesn't just disappear because justice is served. It lives in your bones, in your reflexes, in the way you move through the world. But it also makes you stronger, more empathetic, more determined to ensure others don't suffer the same fate. 3 years after the trial, Amara received a letter. It came from Korea, the return address that of the prison where Jinwoo was serving his sentence. She almost threw it away unopened, but curiosity won. Inside was a single page, Jinwoo's handwriting neat and controlled even now. "Amara, I know you will not forgive me, and I am not asking you to. But I wanted you to know that I have had time to think about what I did, about the lives I destroyed. I cannot undo it. I can only live with the consequences of my actions. You were right. I was a monster. I still am. But perhaps even monsters can recognize the darkness in themselves, even if they cannot escape it. I hope you have found peace. You deserved better than what I did to your family. Your father was a good man, and I destroyed something beautiful for greed. That is my burden to carry forever." Amara read the letter twice, then burned it in her sink, watching the paper curl and blacken into ash. She didn't need his apology or his guilt. She had already moved forward, already built something new from the ruins he left behind. But that night, for the first time in years, she dreamed of her parents. They were in the family compound, her mother cooking, her father reading the newspaper, everything as it had been before Jinwoo entered their lives. In the dream, Amara was young again, unburdened by grief and rage and the knowledge of how cruel the world could be. When she woke, her pillow was wet with tears, but they were different tears now, not just grief, but also gratitude. Gratitude that she had known them, had been loved by them, had been shaped by their kindness and wisdom. Jinwoo had taken them from her, but he had not taken their memory, their influence, the foundation they had built for her life. Today, if you visit Lagos, you might see a successful businesswoman in her 30s, running a thriving import-export company that trades fairly and ethically across continents. You might see her at charity events, speaking passionately about justice for victims of international crime. You might see her teaching young women about business, about resilience, about standing up to power. What you wouldn't see is the girl who sat on a kitchen floor in Seoul, broken by grief, who climbed out of that darkness through sheer determination and courage. What you wouldn't see is the night she stood in a warehouse facing a killer, wearing a wire, knowing she might not survive, but doing it anyway because some things are worth dying for. But if you look closely, you might notice something in her eyes. A hardness, a wariness, a depth that comes from surviving the unsurvivable. And you might wonder what story lives behind that gaze, what battles were fought and won when the world wasn't watching. Amara Okonkwo became more than a survivor. She became a warrior, a guardian, a force for justice in a world that often lets monsters go unpunished. She became the person her parents always believed she could be, forged in fire and sorrow and rage, transformed into something unbreakable. And on quiet nights, when the Lagos compound is peaceful and the family is gathered, she sometimes tells her story to the younger generation. She tells them about Korea, about a man named Jinwoo, about how evil can wear a charming face. She tells them about the importance of vigilance, of trusting your instincts, of standing up even when standing up seems impossible. Life will knock you down, she says to her nieces and nephews, their eyes wide with attention. Sometimes it will knock you so far down you think you will never get up, but you have to get up. You have to keep fighting. Because the alternative is letting the darkness win, and we owe it to ourselves, to each other, to never let that happen. Hey, listen, these children who have grown up in the shadow of the tragedy, knowing their granduncle and grandaunt were murdered but not really understanding what it means. Someday they will. Someday they will face their own darkness, their own challenges, their own monsters. And Amara hopes that when that day comes, they will remember her story. They will remember that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when pushed to the edge. They will remember that justice, though slow and difficult, is always worth pursuing. If you found this story compelling, if it moved you or made you think, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. Have you ever faced an impossible situation and found the strength to overcome it? Have you ever had to seek justice against overwhelming odds? Your stories matter, and I would love to hear them. This channel is dedicated to sharing true stories of courage, resilience, and the human capacity for both darkness and light. By subscribing, you are joining a community that believes in the power of truth, justice, and the indomitable human spirit. Thank you for watching, and remember, no matter how dark the night, dawn always comes for those who refuse to give up.